What's good? It's Wood. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. We have been previewing the upcoming Grammy Awards, and we've been going over some of our favorite categories, predicting winners, talking about the category's history, and we will continue to do so leading up to the actual Grammy ceremony. Now, this video, we are covering this might be my favorite category of them all. Best Alternative Music Album. This is kind of one of the newer categories. I mean, 1991. I mean, some of these date all the way back to the 50s. This one started in 1991. The reason this is one of my favorites, if not my favorite category, is because it's so wide-ranging. When you talk alternative music, that, it meant something different in different eras. Like in the beginning of the 90s, the first winner of this award was Sinead O'Connor. REM has won. Green Day's won it with Dookie in 1994. So they won the 95 award for the 94 album. And like today, it covers so many subgenres like dream pop, chill wave, actual alternative rock or grunge or garage rock, shoegaze, indie rock, folk rock, experimental rock, think like Gnarls Barkley or Gorillaz, electronic rock, psych rock, electronic pop, think like MGMT, indie pop, indie soul, blues rock, progressive or prog rock. There's so many different variations of music. I feel like as they've been expanding the nominee amount in some of these categories, I feel like Best Alternative Music Album is the category that needs more than 5 nominees. It's just such a wide array of versatile artists from all kinds of, we'll call them subgenres. The last winner of this award was Fiona Apple with Fetch the Bolt Cutters. She beat out Phoebe Bridgers with Punisher, Brittany Howard with Jamie, Tame Impala with The Slow Rush, and Beck with Hyperspace. Fiona Apple came out on top. That was actually her first win in this category. As great as her few album discography is, this is her first win. She's been nominated 3 times. Now, the most wins in this category, it's a 3-way tie. It's Radiohead, The White Stripes, and then a couple years ago, Beck joined that list of 3 winners. And he did so in 2019 with 2018 album Colors. So that's now Beck, Radiohead, and The White Stripes with 3 wins. The only 2 other artists who have multiple wins, they have 2 wins, is Coldplay and Vampire Weekend. Vampire Weekend just won a couple years ago with Father of the Bride. I didn't look at that as being their best or even second or third best album, but that was their second win in this category, Father of the Bride. Now, the most nominations in this category, it's also a 3-way tie. But this time, the 3-way tie is between Radiohead, Beck, and Bjork. But unlike Radiohead and Beck, who have 3 wins apiece, Bjork, nominated 8 times, has yet to win this award. She is 0 for 8. I actually had done a video, and I might do another, on the travesty that is Bjork. I mean, if there ever was an alternative artist, I mean, she's all things avant-garde, right? But Bjork, 8 nominations, 0 wins. How the hell does the Recording Academy allow that to happen? The next most nominations after those 3 with 8 nominations, 2 people have 5 nominations, or 2 artists have 5 nominations. That's Tori Amos and Arcade Fire. And then with 4 nominations, you've got Death Cab for Cutie and PJ Harvey. And then you've got several artists who've had 3 nominations and even more artists who've had 2 nominations. Now, before we get into this year's nominees, I just want to go over a couple of artists that I thought should have been nominated that weren't. I thought Spelling with The Turning Wheel should have been nominated. That was an excellent album. I believe The Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano, had that as his #1 album of 2021. Spelling, spelt with 3 L's, with the album The Turning Wheel. Some other artists I thought could have been nominated here were Black Midi with Cavalcade, maybe Jose Gonzalez with Local Valley, Wolf Alice with Blue Weekend. That was a really good one. Sufjan Stevens had a collab with Angelo DeAugustine called A Beginner's Mind. That one could have been nominated. I really was hoping to see that one among these nominees. Shannon Lay had a good album called Geist. Mdu Mokhtar could have been nominated with his latest album, Afrique Victim. Mogwai with As the Love Continues could have been nominated. Nick Cave and Warren Ellis had a good album called Carnage. I just saw Nick Cave and Warren Ellis perform at the Shrine a couple nights ago. Spirit of the Beehive had a really interesting album called Entertainment Death, and The Weather Station definitely could have been nominated here this year with Ignorance. Turnstile had a really good album. There's so many artists that could have been nominated this year, and I mean it's just impossible for 5 nominations to really do this genre or set of genres within alternative justice. But yeah, let's get into the nominees for this year. We've got Fleet Foxes with Shore, Halsey with If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, Japanese Breakfast with Jubilee, Arlo Parks with Collapse in Sunbeams, and St. Vincent with Daddy's Home. Now, I've listened to all of these albums. All of these albums are pretty damn good. You know, I don't, again, think that this was like the best representation of the alternative genres, but you know, Fleet Foxes, for instance, I really like the album Shore. I think it might be their 3rd best album. I mean, Fleet Foxes' debut, it's a self-titled debut from 2008, Fleet Foxes. I don't feel they've ever touched that since that beautiful album from front to back. That album just captured a magic that I don't believe they have recaptured since. The closest they came was probably with their follow-up album to that, Helplessness Blues, like in 2011. But Shore, it's a really good album. I feel like it's got more soft rock leanings than like the early folky, indie folk stuff that they were doing. Very good album. I believe this is their first nomination in this category, which is crazy given, you know, how good a couple of their prior albums were. Father John Misty, by the way, used to play drums for Fleet Foxes for like a little stint when they were touring their debut album. He was in the Fleet Foxes for a little bit before breaking out into his, you know, monstrous indie career. And Father John Misty, is supposed to have an album release sometime this year. I can't wait for that one. But yeah, Fleet Foxes, their lead singer, Robin Pecknold, just has one of these enchanting voices that just sounds like it's from like a bygone era. It just sounds magnificent. There's no other voice like that in music right now. But yeah, Fleet Foxes dropped Shore, and that's nominated this year. Halsey's nominated with If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. I kind of take issue with this nomination here. Not because I don't like Halsey or her music, but why isn't she nominated like in the pop category? I feel like once you hit like a certain level of fame, and granted, like Sinead O'Connor won like in 1991, and you've had Radiohead win a few times, so it's not like we haven't had famous artists, you know, nominated or winning this award. I think, you know, even in 2017, like the winner was David Bowie with Black Star. That was his final album just before he passed away. But I mean, Halsey, like what makes her, like the production style of her music that much different from, say, Ariana Grande or something? It felt so fully produced, and the pop leanings were so apparent. And even if you look at the commercial success of her album compared to the nominees here, it's apples and oranges. And it's like, if you're gonna inject a pop artist or we'll call them an A-list artist in the alternative category, all you're doing is taking up nomination spots from other very interesting artists that you could have nominated here, and you could have had Halsey participating in either the major categories, or if not that, then the pop related categories. But like if you look at the commercial success of the albums that are nominated here, we've got like St. Vincent, who peaked at number 16 with this latest album, Daddy's Home. Fleet Foxes peaked at 28. Japanese Breakfast peaked at number 56. Arlo Parks didn't even hit the Billboard 200 here in the States. Now, she did hit number 3 on the UK charts, but she didn't even chart on the major Billboard 200 charts. Whereas Halsey, she hit number 2 on the Billboard 200. So again, that says nothing about how I feel about the quality of the album. I just feel like this was a misplaced nomination. But the album did kick ass. It has several good songs on it. Japanese Breakfast might have had the biggest level up in terms of notoriety and exposure with this last album. She was covered, you know, very well. Her story was covered. I saw her get a lot of interviews with a lot of the top music publications. You know, her stature in the music landscape increased dramatically with this latest Jubilee album. And you know, I didn't like this album as much as some of the other nominees this year in this category, but like the song that kicks this album off, Paprika, very good tune. I love that melody in the chorus and in the verses. Paprika, my favorite song of the album, and usually I don't love it if my favorite song on an album is track 1 on the album. My next favorite song from the album is probably either Kokomo, Indiana, or maybe Posing in Bondage. Those 3 songs are very good. But yeah, Japanese Breakfast definitely leveled up this year. And, you know, I wouldn't be totally surprised if she wins it, but I don't think she is the most likely to win this. Like, if she was going to win it this year, that would be like Big Thief winning 2 years ago over Vampire Weekend or James Blake or some of the Bon Iver, more established names. Now, Big Thief, with this album that they just dropped with a very long title, I'm not going to try to remember or recite that title name, but they just dropped a very long album that I expect next year to be nominated perhaps in this alternative music category like UFOF was a couple years ago, or maybe even in the major album of the year category. I'm talking just album of the year, cross genre. Big Thief's new album is that good. But yeah, I didn't expect them to win when they dropped UFOF a couple years ago. I didn't expect Phoebe Bridgers to win it last year. As good as that Punisher album was, I just felt like a new name to the indie zeitgeist wasn't going to be the one to steal the show over like Fiona Apple or who else was nominated, Beck or Tame Impala. You know what I mean? But just like Phoebe Bridgers, Punisher was very good. Japanese Breakfast album, Jubilee, is really good. Not as good as Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher, in my opinion, but it's a very good album, as was Arlo Parks' Collapse in Sunbeams. This was a real breakout year for her, too. This was her debut album. Big artist coming out of the UK. Again, she hit number 3 on the UK charts. She hit some of the lesser charts in the US, like the US Heat Seekers chart, the top Heat Seekers. It's kind of breaking and entering for emerging artists. She hit like number 4 on that. But again, she didn't hit the Billboard 200. I like the Collapse in Sunbeams album a lot. It's kind of like that softer indie soul, indie rock. And, you know, some of my favorite songs from this album were Too Good, Black Dog, maybe Bluish or Portrait 400. Speaking of Bluish, y'all remember that Animal Collective song from Merriweather Post Pavilion back in like 2009? Their song Bluish, that's one of my favorite Animal Collective songs. But yeah, I really like this Arlo Parks Collapse in Sunbeams album. I also like that she was actually nominated here. You know, indie is one of those things that kind of that people sort of associate with, you know, with white bands and white artists. So the fact that, you know, we've got a pretty diverse crowd here. We've got Japanese Breakfast, we've got Arlo Parks. It just speaks well to how more and more artists from different ethnic backgrounds are being considered in this Best Alternative Music Album category. Just like Brittany Howard, she was nominated a few years ago with that Jamie album, and her band, Alabama Shakes, actually won this award with Sound and Color back in 2016. And the final nominee that we have here is St. Vincent with Daddy's Home. Now, St. Vincent this is her 3rd nomination in this category, and she actually won it back in 2015 with her 2014 album, St. Vincent. That was her 4th album. So that was the one before Mass Seduction. St. Vincent dropped in 2014 and St. Vincent won the award in 2015. So she's actually going for her 2nd win right here. And when she won it with that self-titled St. Vincent album, she won it over Alt J's This Is All Yours. That was Alt J's 2nd album, I believe. She won it over Arcade Fire's Reflector, Cage the Elephant's 2014 album, and Jack White's Lazaretto. So that was a big year for St. Vincent. And she was nominated after that with Mass Seduction. And here she is again with Daddy's Home. I actually think that she might be the front runner to win it this year with Daddy's Home. This was very different than other St. Vincent albums. I mean, she went from being very avant-garde with like Strange Mercy and Actor. Those were her like around the time of like 2009, 2010, 11 albums, Actor and Strange Mercy. Very good albums, but they were almost in the vein of, like, if you're not used to avant-garde or abstract sounds, like if you weren't a Bjork fan, then it's more of an acquired taste. On this Daddy's Home album, she actually has like more of these like dream pop moments and just kind of more straightforward indie rock kind of, you know, I would say that starting at the St. Vincent album, that's the one that won this award, she started getting a bit funkier in her production to where it was more danceable. Like she had more funky grooves in her songs. And with this Daddy's Home album, she's got, you know, a lot of that. Like with the song that kicks this album off, Pay Your Way in Pain. Like that's the one she performed when she was on SNL this year. That one is a kind of danceable, funky style song. But then she has like this song, Live in a Dream, that almost has like a Pink Floyd-ish, Dark Side of the Moon-ish, like musical explosions of just euphoria, where you've got this like wall of guitar sound that's just kind of swirling and kind of putting you in this very hazy but explosive, it feels like very climatic state. St. Vincent hits that in track 4 with Live in the Dream here. She does kind of a rockabilly throwback tune, melody towards the end of the album with My Baby Wants a Baby. This album has some very like dreamlike interludes. I like the song The Melting of the Sun. I like the song The Laughing Man. Down. Very deep album conceptually as well. Listen to the lyrics in that album. That matched with the production, matched with St. Vincent's elevated notoriety, makes me think that she might win this award for the second time this year. Now, they might want to give it to somebody else. They might be like, damn, Fleet Foxes has had like 4 albums and has not won this award yet. Maybe let's give it to Fleet Foxes. But I kind of feel like this is a two-way race between Halsey and St. Vincent. I feel like Halsey, I mean, this was an excellent album. Again, I just thought that it was miscategorized. But being that it is categorized in Best Alternative Music Album, I think that this one is going to come down to either Halsey or St. Vincent. Now, if Japanese Breakfast comes out of nowhere and as this emerging artist wins this award, that would be a pretty big deal. Like, I've seen, like, Father John Misty, I thought should have won it in the year, this was 2018. The National won it with Sleep Well Beast. And Father John Misty was nominated that year with Pure Comedy. That was his 3rd solo album under the name Father John Misty. He used to record several albums under the name Jay Tillman, but under Father John Misty, Pure Comedy was his 3rd album, and I thought that should have won it that year. So I've seen a lot of emerging artists with very good albums get nominated here, and then a bigger name ends up taking the award. I think that might be the case here with either Halsey or St. Vincent winning. I think Halsey might have had the best album in this category. I mean, maybe. I mean, damn, St. Vincent's album was really good as well. And, you know, maybe I'm not giving Fleet Foxes a totally fair shake just because, again, that 2008 Fleet Foxes album totally rocked my world. So maybe I'm biased towards that album where, like, no matter what they do, it's just not good enough for me. So maybe I'm biased against Fleet Foxes. But, I mean, I love the band. I just saw them a couple years ago. But I'm going to go with St. Vincent winning this award for the 2nd time with Daddy's Home. But yeah, let me know what you think about this category, about this list of nominees, about the fact that, again, Bjork has been nominated 8 times without one damn win. What's up with that? Who are some of your favorite indie artists? Who do you think should have been nominated with their 2021 album in this list? Please let me know in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.